My dear friends, all of us have payments to make and obligations to meet. Some of you have, or some of us have, we owe for the car we enjoy, maybe the bike, we pay installments. Sometimes for the house, you have to pay installments. Maybe things like even fridge. So you have payments to make, and that's the way of life. So somebody said on the bumper sticker like this, telling the reality, we woe, so off to work we go. We woe, so off to work we go. Yes, my dear friends, with the debt comes responsibility, and it is twofold in our case. One is horizontal, that is our debt to man and to government. We pay taxes, things like that. And to God, the vertical dimension. So we have two debts. And the context today Jesus is talking about is where Pharisees, the religious people, the religious group of that time, and Herodians, their political party who sympathized with Herod, and then they were accommodating the Romans so that there won't be much bigger trouble. So these two groups have a plot, and they wanted to catch Jesus somehow. And the question they put was either or. Is it to pay either Caesar or God? But Jesus was telling it is not the question of either or, but it is both. If you do not pay, you get tax bills. I mean, every time installments, we get a lot of bills, reminders. They send reminders if you don't pay. Or else you also have to pay penalties and interest. So this is how life goes on. Now, in the case of God, what do I owe to God today? Am I giving what I owe to God? He does not. Does he send reminders? Malachi 3:8 talks about, will a man rob God? But you rob me, he says, in tithes and offerings, and you will be cursed because you rob me. There are debts that cannot be unpaid, my dear friends. So in the case of God, what do I really owe to God? Present generation does not think that we owe anything. Why? Because they feel that they owe nobody, and not just in the sense of money or things, but commitment, discipline, duty, and responsibility. They think they have no duty, no responsibility. The children in the family, they think that they are entitled to all the gifts that they are enjoying because they are the children of you, which is wrong. Emphasis on freedom only. There are some people who want freedom and no responsibility. And as we were in the seminary formation, our professor used to talk about always freedom with responsibility. But these people want only freedom. And because of that, they say, I owe nothing, no explanation to anybody. Younger generation is feeling that way. They don't want to tell you where they go, how long they stay, what they spend for, nothing. They don't owe any explanation, and they owe explanation to nobody, none. And because they say, I do because I like it. My dear friends, that is the reason I think today we have this kind of tendency of the neglect of elderly parents, because they feel that they don't owe to them, and say, maybe we don't owe to them. It is their responsibility to bring us up. They brought us, and that there ends the matter. And they don't feel, because they feel like doing or giving. They don't feel like giving or doing. But best things in life are not that way, because it comes with much sacrifice and responsibility. Now, why I owe to God? Why do I owe to God? What did Jesus say? Bring the coin. And they brought the coin. And what did Jesus ask? Whose image is there? It's Caesar. My dear friends, just like the coin bore the image of the ruler, because the image is the personal property of the ruler. Coin is the personal property of the ruler. Same thing just like the coin bore the image of Caesar, our life bears the image of our Creator. Genesis chapter 1, verses 26-27. I have made you in my own image, and in the likeness of God we are made. I'll tell you, once upon a time, a young boy carved a sailboat to play with. And he had a stream nearby his home, and so he would leave that in the stream and then he would play with it. But one day, he lost it in the current. It was caught in the current and he lost it. And then same thing, he saw it in a shop one day. He went to a shop and found it was there because somebody brought it and sold to that shop. And the shopkeeper said, if you pay me, I will give it. Then he buys it back and he tells this little boat, you are twice mine. You are twice mine because first I carved you, then now I bought you back. I think Jesus and God can say about us, you are twice mine because I bought it, I carved you and created you, and I bought it you with the price of my son, the blood of my son. And another example I can give you, my dear friends, that happened in the life situations. Wealthy England family, they went one day for a get together. Friends, they called friends, and they're having good time, but there was about a tragedy because one of the child got caught in the swimming. He was about to be drowned. And there would have been a tragedy had it not been for the gardener who immediately rescued the boy. And he was nobody else. The victim was Churchill, Winston Churchill. And his parents said, we are so thankful to you. And what do you want as a reward? And the gardener said, I wish my son could go to the college so one day he could become a doctor. And they really helped him to become a doctor. They financed him. And years later, when Winston Churchill became the Prime Minister of England, he was up with pneumonia, a disease. And then King summoned the best physician of that time, and there was no other than Dr. Sir Alexander Fleming, developer of the penicillin medicine, who was the son of the gardener that we are talking about. And Winston Churchill said, rarely has one man owed his life twice for the same person, to the same person. Rarely has one man owed his life twice to the same person. And I think this is true in the case of God. And we owe to him. God has given physical life when he created us, and he has given eternal life when he redeemed us. In other words, we are doubly indebted to God. Romans 12 chapter 1 says, that is the reason you must offer yourself as living sacrifice to God, holy and pleasing to God. Because we are created in God's image and likeness, and we belong to God. He created and redeemed us. 1 Corinthians chapter 6 verse 19 to 20 says, he has given you the Spirit and he has bought you with a price. And Romans 13 6 to 8, St. Paul says, give each what is their due. So my dear friends, today what can we give in return to our soul? Jesus asks that question. So we owe a lot to God. Practically, what does it mean in our life? First of all, we owe our time, because time is very precious. God desires your fellowship. That means your companionship. Not just your Sunday worship, but also your daily time for prayer, apart from your Sunday worship. So do you have some time? You owe it to God every day. And do you have some Bible reading with meditation that we have a practice in our life? Some kind of spiritual reading. I read about the imitation of Christ several times, and I read also there are some kind of reflection moments where you can really feel consoled, where you can feel really refreshed. The books, there are a lot of books that are really worth spiritual reading. So second thing, first thing is the time, our tithe, to say that all of it belongs to God, or else God says you rob him. So a lot of times we think we are entitled to, and then it is our own hard work that we have what we have today. One time bishop told me, one bishop, Father Bala, do you think all of this is what you earn for? Because I used to feel a lot of times, oh, I used to work very hard. Some people get it for free, and I work here for hard. But I think there is an eye-opener with what he said. Yes, a lot of things I think we owe to God, and we don't really deserve it. So my dear friends, by giving back to God your talents, also your tithe and your talents, you serve a nation, you say, but how about serving God, involving church activities? And should not be like the unjust steward who went and hid everything in the ground. That is burying your talents and your abilities. That should not be our attitude. There are 4 types of attitudes for any man in the world. And one is, you think that authority belongs to God alone. So there is no civil authority. And the second one, the authority belongs to state alone. So there is no God at all. And the third way of looking at it is, it belongs to both state and God. Where you say, where the state is dominant, God is subservient. And the fourth way is to say that the authority belongs to both God and God is dominant. And this is exactly the right view we should have, because it is I could quote you several chapters from the Bible where Peter, Paul, everybody says about you have to obey, because the authority is given even to the secular people by God. So my dear friends, but God is dominant. Today there is a danger for all of us that state dominates sometimes, the courts dominate sometimes, and they come even against morals, and they give decisions on certain things that we object to. God has dominance on those things, so we need to be aware of this. At the same time, we respect the state, and we are called by God to do that, to obey the state laws and everything. But there is a kind of what you call Lakshmana Rekha, where you say, yes, this is state and this belongs to God. So my dear friends, today let us reflect ourselves and see, what do I owe to God? I am indebted to God twice, because He created and redeemed. But in terms, what do I do in my life? Saints have given up everything to them, because everything what I have is God's. So you are in the family with family life, but still you owe to God. You have to. But today there is a tendency, as I said, we don't owe any explanation to anybody. Everybody wants freedom, which is wrong. Are we really free completely? Not. And not only that, we have a commitment to our neighbor. We have a commitment to God. So the beautiful things and the best things of life are that way. So let us reflect and see how we obey God and how we owe to God, how we can live our lives.